Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining me here again today. Welcome to the Keto Gaia Kitchen. These videos set out how I created my own path to successful and sustainable weight loss for long-term change. Finding the right nutrition, focusing on my gut health and changing my mindset around food to ensure that I improved my food choices, and all of these led to a transformation in my health and weight loss outcomes. When it comes to the nutritional aspects, I have found that low carb and keto work best for me, and so the food videos that I will be doing will be based on low carb and keto. The mindset and behavioural changes are both woven through these videos, and also there will be a separate set of videos on each of those topics. In addition, I'm also going to be loading on other videos about gut health and other topics that I believe all have a role to play in weight loss in today's modern world. This video is about the topic of food, and for me that means low carb and keto, a lifestyle that I've been following now for about 10 years. I want to set out the very first steps into the keto lifestyle. And for me, that begins with a focus away from eating high carbohydrates and processed foods. And that's because keto is about guiding the body to preferentially choosing to burn fat for energy rather than sugar. A lot of people I speak to about keto think that starting keto just means focusing on eating lots of fats. And yes, fat and protein are vitally important nutrients, but it really misses the essential starting point to burning stored fat, which is reducing the amount of carbohydrates and focusing on real food. When I switched to keto, I'd spent so many years counting calories and relying on that system for weight loss that switching to a different way of thinking about food in terms of macros seemed really daunting. You know, it's one thing to be a nutritionist and a food scientist and to totally get where we get all our energy from. But for 30 years before I started on this lifestyle, I'd only ever counted calories. Not carbs or fats or protein. There were many elements of this lifestyle which seemed so new to me that when I compared it to what I had been doing, it seemed like a really big step outside my comfort zone. And to begin with, I often found myself gravitating back towards the high carb and processed foods, which I'd always associated with my calories in and calories out diets, because they were just simply my go-to foods for energy, choosing them because I was on autopilot or responding to a craving which I'd previously always answered with sugar. Of course, continuing to eat foods which were high in carbohydrates took me over that threshold beyond which I was still going to be a sugar burner. I had to take a few days to adjust my mindset about eating carbohydrates and to really look at where the potential pitfalls were. And I was able to identify 3 behaviours in which carbohydrates were still too prevalent in my food choices. Number 1, through being on autopilot. So food choices from in my cupboards to the foods on supermarket shelves, and particularly around special offers. Number 2, through succumbing to a sugar craving. More about that later. And number 3, through continuing the belief that there was only one way of getting energy, through sugar. In this video I want to address that last point, which is also the very first step onto the keto way of life, getting energy from stored fat and not from carbohydrates, because the body will turn carbohydrates into sugar. I'm going to deal with the other 2 points I mentioned in other videos, in a mindset video and in a video about cravings called Hierarchy of Signalling, so look out for those. For me, keto is about looking at weight loss through a completely different lens. So if you want to give keto a go, which I really hope you do, here is my weight loss through a low carb lens. I used to get almost all my energy from carbohydrates. I was definitely a sugar burner. And what started out as 3 meals a day ended up as an almost constant need to find, eat and burn sugar. That need for sugar, it didn't happen overnight. It took years and years to set in and came along with far too many health problems for me. I used to have to replenish my sugar regularly, and I did that because I had to keep up my energy levels, and also, I'm sad to say, to get my next sugar fix. In the years before I made the switch to low carb, I couldn't go above about an hour without getting a craving, and I'd wake up thinking about food. The cravings were horrible, that awful gnawing, empty feeling, the lack of energy, being really agitated and just not being able to stop thinking about food. That craving only went away when I ate high sugary and processed foods. Of course, I didn't realise at the time the damage that I was doing, and I certainly never set out with the intention of becoming so overweight and unhealthy. It was something that happened to me, and I never made a connection with the foods that I was putting on my plate and the damage that I was doing to my health. When I decided to go low carb, then keto, more than 10 years ago now, I wish back then that I'd appreciated how my body has the ability to choose where it gets its energy from. Every human body can use their stored energy for fuel. The key to unlock and burn stored energy is within each of us. It's written into the very fabric of every cell of our being. We just need to redirect the signal. As predominantly sugar burners, we don't use that fat burning signal, because our modern Western diet encourages us to recognise the sugar signal, not the fat signal. Eating a lot of carbohydrates suppresses and blocks the ability for the body to use stored fat and to get the benefit from ketones. It's important to mention here that even people who eat a diet in high carbohydrates could and most likely do make and burn ketones at certain times and in certain situations. However, as a fat burner, the difference is I give my body the opportunity to consistently and preferentially choose stored fat for energy. So that first step, the first principle of encouraging the body to use fat for fuel is the reduction of carbohydrates. And that reduction to an individual threshold is the signal for the body to switch to becoming fat adapted. So when I started my ketogenic lifestyle, firstly I restricted my carb intake so that I would start to burn fat for energy. To begin with, that would have come from the food I was eating, and after a few weeks I became what is known as fat adapted, and I continued to burn fat for my energy. Then after a few more weeks, after I'd got more used to this lifestyle and the food choices, and I was more on an even keel, I'd say, my body started to make its own energy from turning my stored fat into energy packets called ketones, which it could then burn. And over time, this became the preferred way for me to access and create my own energy, and I became keto adapted. So being keto adapted means focusing on using and burning stored fat as a preferred use of fuel. So there is a process to burning stored fat. It doesn't happen overnight. By this time, a few months into following a keto lifestyle, I realised that not only was I in less pain, but I'd also started to lose weight. And it was different from when I was trying to lose weight on calories in and calories out. I wasn't just shifting the same 4 pounds over and over and over again, but I was actually getting rid of stored weight. I was carrying around less fat because I was using it for energy. So I started to see many benefits from following the keto way of life: weight loss, less inflammation, less pain. In other words, I'd started the healing process. I was not doing loads of exercise, rather I was beginning to see that searching out nutritious foods didn't require a counterbalance of moving. Instead, it needed a focus on eating foods which was going to give me the sustenance I needed and supporting that with the correct mindset. I saw that by lowering my carb intake, by concentrating on learning the foods which made me feel better, I could lose inflammation and stored fat and weight and be in less pain. So does that mean that when I become keto adapted and fat adapted, that my body has stopped using glucose as a fuel source? Well, no, not at all. There are still certain functions of the body which prefer glucose, like red blood cells, for instance. And as keto adapted, my body will make all the glucose it needs through a process called gluconeogenesis. And that's how amazing the human body is. It can recycle and make energy from different substrates. So I can see, looking back, there are 3 distinct phases to my health and weight loss, and I call these repair, rebalance and rebuild. And within each of those I can see how my health has improved. So by looking at my health and weight loss as a process, I've been able to set goals, manage daily expectations, overcome the challenges which are unique to each phase, dealing with addiction to carbohydrates and poor habits around food choices, recognising that macros ebb and flow as my health has improved and become more balanced. Through an improved brain and gut connection, I've seen an increased tolerance towards higher amounts of protein. In other words, as my gut health has improved, I've been able to increase my protein intake. Those are all windows of opportunity, and by seeing those as moments when I can improve my food choices, I've moved through those phases. Also finding windows of opportunity to improve my mindset and my self-belief in my ability to lose weight and keep that weight off. And I never had that when I was following calories in and calories out. So having come through the repair and rebalancing phases, I can see myself now in this rebuilding phase. I'm strongly focused on keeping the momentum of improving health goals and seeing muscle building as an essential part of that. So these 3 phases, repair, rebalance and rebuild, have given me the framework into which I can set out strategies towards successful and sustainable weight loss. Now I apply time-restricted eating in addition to my low-carb and keto way of life. I eat within a window of about 6 hours a day, and I don't eat or snack between meals. I eat 2 meals a day and I apportion all of my macros between those 2 meals. This situation has taken time to adapt to, and I only started thinking about intermittent fasting once I felt comfortable about following a keto way of life, and once I was confident that I tackled those behaviours around habitual and emotional eating. You know, it's only in the recent past that we've become full-time sugar burners on a global scale. For me, it's no coincidence that metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance and autoimmune disorders have become serious health issues within that same time scale. Going low carb and keto and changing my relationship with food was the best thing I've ever done for my health. Making sure I keep that focus and passion for this wonderful lifestyle is with me every single day. in the ingredients I choose, and in the recipes I cook, and I look forward to sharing those with you. So that's it for today's video about the first steps onto the keto lifestyle, beginning with your relationship with carbohydrates. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been so good to see you here again in my kitchen, in the Keto Gaia kitchen. Thanks for taking the time to be here with me. Take care and see you again soon. Bye for now.